Hello guys and welcome back. So more of this deck tech that we are going to discuss in this video, and we are going to cater again another tribal deck. I'm not really that of a fan, obviously. This is sarcastic, but we know that this new set Aetherdrift has somewhat given us opportunities that having this specific archetype that is featured for this video has prompted me to say that I think this archetype is really back now in the current standard. So we go with this deck, which I call as the Vampires or Orzhov Vampires, basically black-white Vampires deck for this format. So we're going to explore now the new complete, or let's say it's not really 90% complete or 100%, but we take a look at how it will look like now with these new cards. So we have 30 creatures, 5 instants, 23 lands, 2 artifacts again, we're featuring Likecraft Engine, of course, because we are going tribal. And let's take a look at the lineup. We're having this version. Of course, again, the support of Likecraft Engine here makes sure that our we have a strong item effect that can also become a threat in the late game because of this 4/4 power. And let's see our lineup today. So we have 6 1-drops. You can see here the 1-drop are pretty much important in my experience of having an aggro deck in this build. So we saw first the reprint of Pulse Tracker in Foundation. So we have 3 copies in the deck. This is a throwback of a classic card that I used to play back in 2011 when I played the Rakdos Vampires in Grand Prix Singapore. So this card would also get you to have this loss effect. So it's like a pseudo 2-1 because of this ability, and later on can also be useful in triggering starter engines conditions. But we take a look at the new card from the other 1-drops, that is Gas Guzzler. This is a 1-mana cost 2/1 Vampire Rogue, starts your engines, and then this enters top, but it has ability later on its max speed, pay 1, sacrifice a creature or vehicle, draw a card. So given here that we have again the reprint of Bloodghast, it's pretty sure that we have a good old engine that we can return this back into the play, pay 1 for gas ability to sacrifice a draw card, and then play a land to get this back into the battlefield. So landfall effects plus this one would max speed effect would be really efficient, and you can just imagine curving into turn 1 Pulse Tracker, and then turn 2 Gas Guzzler, for example, and then Pulse Tracker attacks. It will then trigger your ability that you can basically start some engine at 2 at the end of the turn. So the more this deck curves out pretty well, the more that you can achieve max speed with this ability that you can benefit later on. So it also effect with these 2 drops, aside of course the reprint of Bloodghast here is very important, because this is a continuous threat early game and the late game. More so that if your opponent has 10 life or less, it can attack, or it has haste. And good news of this, because it's like also a combo with this other card. When you have Gas Guzzler as your sacrifice enabler, as you have this card, Kalasir Highborn. So you sacrifice a creature, or when the creature or another creature, a vampire you control dies, you may pay 1 to have this ability, lose life, and you gain 2 life. And more so, this is also a 2-drop on its own, which can also go with the curve of attacking by turn 3. So in addition to that, we also considered Amalia, because its ability, that is a bonus for you to gain life, and also punishes opponents. If they want to get rid of Amalia, they would need to pay 3 life to target it. And this ability that whenever you gain life, you will explore, and exploring also helps us get rid of your extra lands in order for you for the deck to draw to its actual creatures. And more so, if you can be able to reveal, for example, you reveal a Bloodghast from the top, you can just pay it, put it in the graveyard, then play a land, and then use the trigger effect to get it back into the battlefield. So we have pretty much a huge variance of shenanigans up to this curve. And the other 2 drops are considered here. We have a few 1-ops and 2 ops here. First, we also have Sanguine Symphoner. This is a 1/3, but it's pretty much have this ability that they can attack each opponent, loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. More so, that can be efficient later on if you have cards like Bloodlet or Bakasauts into the battlefield, which doubles those total life loss effects trigger. And the other also that can have a utility in this deck is a Bran. We have also one copy, but it's still a 2/2 for its own. It's a vampire. Also, whenever one or more creatures you control die, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. It only triggers once, but more so, we have these various effects that sacrificing creatures and having Kalsir Highborn and Bran in the battlefield would also get you some long range or drain life effects that can finish off opponents. And the other card that we considered also as 1-drop or 2-drop 1-of copy in the deck is Non-Prison Vivian, which can be useful with Kick in the late game, as it was able to return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. The purpose here is we can return threats such as Bloodletter Assaults or Bloodthirsty Conjurer or even Elendra from your graveyard into the battlefield. Going to the 3rd drop, I consider this one as a 3rd drop because of its ability that it needs to be kicked to be able for it to kill off opponent's creatures. You can sacrifice a creature of your opponent. And the other 3-drop here is, of course, Preacher of the Schism. It can produce an army of its own, and do take note also that the tokens produced by it are also vampires. So, an effect that triggers these vampires would also benefit at making them 2/2 in the process, at the same time making your Preacher Schism a 3/5 and also 3/5 detach is pretty much very hard to get rid of, and gets you cards effects also if you have the most life or tied for the most life. So that is 2 copies of the deck. I also considered a copy of Stankin Evangelist for an added Battle Cry effect. Since Butterfly gets your creatures +1/+0, and then gets you a bonus also creature of a bat, the 1/1 bat creature token with flying as it enters the battlefield or dies trigger. And your 4 drops here, of course, Bloodletter Assaults is a very good finisher of the game. It doubles your damage, your opponent's lose life effects, and also a flyer for itself. And we have also considered the Saint of Death because its ability that it can be hex-proof from instance, a 4/4 and a lifelink also. In its bonus also, if your life total is greater than that of your starting life, it becomes 5/5 in menace, and then if you have at least 10 greater than starting life total, it becomes a 10/10. So imagine a 10/10 life linker, menace, and hexproof instant is a very good threat in game ender on its own. And lastly, we have a copy of Bloodthirsty Conqueror. This is just a mini combo that when your opponent loses life, you will gain life the same time. So if you imagine curving on this from a turn 4 Bloodletter, and then Bloodthirsty Conqueror turn 5, and then you will attack with your creatures, losing this life, your opponents, and you will gain life equal to that lose life effects done. And going for the instance, of course, spot removals would really help us here. We have choices of cut downs and go for the throats as a solid early game and late game spot removals respectively, as well as a copy of Bitter Triumph that can deal off with a random Planeswalker threat. And we can improve later on in the sideboard by having more of this or other card specific spot removals depending on the metagame. And lastly, we check on the lands. We are very specific with, of course, having Covered of Souls as a mana fix, and at the same time we make sure that our creatures cannot be countered. So we have still a threat of the blue-white control decks that has a lot of counter spells, as well as the Dimir mid-range or aggro decks that caters also counter spells in the deck. So we need to resolve them as early as possible so that our curve will not be affected by this kind of build. And do take note also, we have a new card here, a new basic land, a non-basic Bleachbone Verge from Aetherdrift. It also gets you to fix to add black or white in the late game. And in addition, of course, the usual suspects, Concealed Courtyard, Caves of Koilos, and 2 copies of the Reis Fortress, which can also become a manland if needed in the late game, and of course 7 Swans in the deck. And last but not the least, we check on the lineup for the curve. So this is average 2.22, but I think 23 lands is pretty much a good count of lands that can fit for this kind of mana value, because we need to make sure that in the late game we can still have some high-end spells that we can cast for specific matchups such as mid-range and control decks. And going well, it is basically black based. You can only have 2 of the white, 4 of the main deck as white, but the mana fix is pretty much even and can be able to accommodate this color requirements. And last but not the least, check on some tokens. We have a Bat token from the Evangelist and the Vampire token from the Preacher of Schism as our main token build for this. So for now, this would be the look of our Vampires deck tribal for the standard format. Make sure that we can still be able to up this later on. Maybe we can have more discussion with the sideboard choices as well as other card options in the main deck when the new or the full spoiler of the Aetherdrift set is revealed. So I guess that's pretty much it for now, guys. Thank you for checking this one. Again, we have Orzhov Vampires for Aetherdrift Standard, the Decktech, and do take note to don't forget to like and subscribe, and also notifications on for future deck or Decktech uploads that we'll have on this channel. Again, guys, thank you for watching this one. This is Detmart TV, and see you guys on the next video.